Welcome back to Rocket Pod. On today's episode, we're joined by Richard Clark, the founder of Smash Drinks. Smash Drinks is a fast-emerging consumer brand in the NOLO category. They have a wonderful range of non-alcoholic beers and ciders, and really, the product does taste excellent. And we're really excited to take a deep dive into Richard's entrepreneurial journey and what it takes to build a consumer brand from scratch. That is no mean feat. So we're really excited to get stuck in.
Rich, thank you so much for joining. I'm very excited to sort of delve into your sort of story a little bit, because I'm sort of in the similar alcohol and heading towards a no alcohol space as well, but in cocktails. I'm very excited to sort of hear a bit more about everything you've done. But just to give a bit of a background about Rocket Pod. So originally there were three of us. Producer has had to head off to do a different direction, but it's basically a podcast where it sort of was two generations of entrepreneurs that have sort of come together to sort of have conversations with people from all different industries, professions, to sort of understand really how they've taken an idea and created something amazing out of it. So it's been sort of Olympians like Sally Gunn, all that sort of thing, to business entrepreneurs, to sort of the founders of like Photobox, Graham Hobson, that sort of thing, and just sort of different people from all different industries, just to really have sort of a casual chat and just to really delve into how they've done it. We're now on season, so this is sort of start of season 3. So we just want to get sort of about 6 to 8 recordings under our belt, and then we're going to start releasing them to sort of all of our listeners. So that's sort of a bit about Rocket Pod. Quickly about myself. So my name's Harry. I'm 22, and as well do sort of the entrepreneurial route. I started business when I was 15, doing a little sweet cart for weddings and events. I built with my grandpa in his garage over a summer holiday just for a bit of fun, and then started serving at events and weddings that for a few years, and then alongside college education, left there, did an apprenticeship in digital marketing, left that, and then headed towards the cocktail space, which was sort of mobile bars for events. Then lockdown hit, as we all know, which meant that all the events, hospitality, everything that we were doing came to a complete stop, which was fun. So decided to pivot towards bringing the cocktail experience to people at home through a range of sort of DIY home cocktail kits, which have everything you need to sort of make your own cocktails at home. And that's sort of where we're at today. We're doing the sort of cocktail kits. We're looking at the non-alcohol market space. We've got some new cocktails we're developing. So super excited to sort of have you on. I love the branding of the sort of the idea behind it. So I've got looking forward to just hearing all about it. So that's me. I'll pass you over to James now.
You said that very eloquently. Harry's a real smooth talker and excellent delivery.
He is for 22.
He's amazing. And actually, so as Harry said, we're really interested in speaking to visionaries, and these are folks that can take an idea and then actually forge that idea into reality. I think in season 3, we're actually shifting a little bit towards D2C, emerging D2C brands, only because it's more aligned with what Harry's doing with Cocktail Connoisseurs, but also, Flexi's developing the this subscription marketplace. But really, we're fascinated about your journey. So just really quickly on me, spent most of my career in the US, came back to the UK about 8 years ago. I've been working in the fintech space, and then recently Flexi was born, kind of 2 years into the Flexi journey, raised angel investment, that type of thing. And we're looking to now scale the business and actually attracting buyers. Now we've got about 162 brands. But Rocket Pod is a separate business, and it's really, we do this for fun. We get to expand our social network and meet cool people like you. So this might be good.
I hope you keep me on your social network after today.
Yeah, fantastic. So I think it's probably a good segue. So Richard, welcome to Rocket Pod. So Richard Clark is the founder of Smash Drinks, or Drynks Unlimited, and has an amazing range of non-alcoholic beers and ciders. And we really would like to delve into Richard's journey. I noticed that you have quite a solid background in marketing, but really before we kind of get into the business side, it'd be really interesting if you can explain a little bit about your childhood, kind of where you came from. So where did Richard come from? And then we can kind of fast forward to today and kind of start, if we can just hear about your journey and how you arrived to found Smash Drinks, or Drynks Unlimited, sorry.
Okay, I'll keep this as interesting as I can and as brief as I can. Thank you for having me on Rocket Pod. I really am pleased to share some time with you. I guess my early years were some of my time spent in Spain, and then moved to the UK. I moved around a lot because of my parents, and to say that they were commercial people would be an understatement.
Okay.
My mother taught law, and my stepfather taught life. It was a retailer. It was a retailer at heart. British Home Stores when they were alive as a brand. And then he had a chain of 12 newsagents. And that's why I learned the art of pocket money, where we spoke about what was my first job. My first job was delivering papers and etc., learning the art of trying to avoid the wealthy areas that had the Sunday Times delivered on a Sunday, because they were the ones who used to tie you down and take longer to deliver.
Oh, really?
Fill your back. So you always try to go for the Sunday Mirror readers, not the Sunday Times readers. The education came along, and newspaper deliveries took a back seat. Various places of education throughout the country. Just to say that the commercial world's always been in my blood, in terms of always being there because of my stepfather, I think, and it followed me throughout. I ended up at after disastrous O levels and A levels. I ended up very fortunately at what's called Nottingham University, Trent Polytechnic Business School, and I was in the first year of that course, which was business studies with marketing and Spanish. That being helpful for me because of my background. So it was all very, very fortunate that despite my O levels and A levels, I ended up at Trent Polytechnic, where the lectures were absolutely superb. The course was brilliant, and I had 3 6-month placements and was inundated with offers. I was very lucky. Don't know why me. I was lucky. I was offered some great 6-month placements. So 6-month placements, come back with quite a bit of money in my pocket and a company car. And so when I was age 20, I had a white Escort. There was 1.6 petrol.
Nice one.
And everyone thought I was a flashy salesman. I was just doing a placement. Thoroughly enjoyed the times at Nottingham Trent Polytechnic. Learnt an awful lot about the art of answering questions and how not to answer questions. And that was probably the biggest thing I learned in terms of my education on a theoretical side. In terms of, I then, through my career, without going through all my jobs, drinks has been the central fulcrum of my career. Drinks, soft drinks, alcohol, and more latterly alcohol-free. Soft drinks was with British Pepsi. Got involved with, led a project for Pepsi Max coming into the UK right at the start. I was very lucky in terms of that job. I then got involved with Bass Brewers, now called Molson Coors. I was able to launch brands called Reef and got involved with Caffrey's as a new product. So I've always been involved, not necessarily in the theoretical side of marketing planning, but you would call it entrepreneurial marketing, launching products. I then moved on to Hailwood International, where I was very lucky to come across my mentor called John Hailwood. And I think John Hailwood at Hailwood International, who was the owner and my mentor, and Mark Hunter from Molson Coors were the two people I learned most from in my career, in terms of the ability to listen to other people, the ability to, and I have this ability, and it's lucky that I have this ability, is to know when people have better skills than me. And almost like form of defense around my weaknesses. So know when to bring in people that know more than you do, harness their strengths, work with them, get to understand how they tick, and then how they can tick and work with other people. And that's I learned that from Mark Hunter and John Hailwood in terms of the ability to get people to work together. Some people might say that I make people work too hard. Some people will say I'm being very lucky with the people I've had around me. Both are true. Both are absolutely true. I've been very blessed with the people around me. So in terms of Molson Coors, Bass and Hailwood, working in teams has been at the heart of everything I've done in marketing. So not a classical marketeer. I've always wanted to be a clever classical planning marketeer, but I ended up just because of my personality in terms of the entrepreneurial side. And a phrase that comes to mind is, why bother? Why bother getting up in the morning? And we'll come on to Drynks Unlimited and Smash shortly, but those earlier years of working in teams, thinking about what difference I can make to a business, and I hope bringing something to the table, both from a personal perspective and actually a physical perspective. Always try to add value in other people's days. So if they went away thinking they contributed, I felt great. As opposed to what physically do they give me? How do they feel at the end of the day, at the end of the project? Do they feel like they've contributed? So lots of projects, lots of new products, and that's formed itself. So in 2016 was quite poorly, and people are going to say, this isn't true. You made this up for a book you're going to write down the track. It's the truth. I was very, very poorly, and I said to my brother, I need to start my own business. And it is true. There was a thing came to my head before I went into the operating theatre that said, what do you drink when you can't drink? And it's absolutely the case of the truth. What do you drink when you can't drink? And it just came into my head, and it stuck with me. And I said to my brother, before I went into the operating theatre, what I need to do run my own business. I need to do this before it's too late. And if I don't do it now, I'll never do it. And I think I want to learn from the things I've learned from Mark Hunter and more lately John Hailwood. And that's when it happened. I came out, and I could write a book on the next 4 years since 2000.
Just knew it. I just knew.
Yeah, and I didn't realise how hard it was going to be, but it got harder and harder. But I just had to do it. As I went back to my previous point, which was learning about how to get the best out of people, surround yourself with people who have more skills than you do. Understand what skills you need to launch a company and a brand. And I have been blessed. I will name them now and have hopefully a degree of humility when I say John Thornton sat down with me for 4 hours in a coffee bar in Bury when I came out the first day out of hospital. And he sat down for a chat, and he went away with 10 screens of paper that became the business plan. And it's the truth. And you could ask John yourself. He probably regrets it ever since, the amount of work that he worked with me. So John Thornton, I have to mention right at the start. Les Norton is the liquid genius that I knew of at Molson Coors. And I worked with him at Hailwood International. He was everything behind Krabby Ginger Beer, behind Red Square Vodka, really behind Whitney Neal Gin that you see today. It was all Les Norton, 20-odd years of, he knows not just about business, but processes, detail, legislation, but then the art of putting liquids together, whether alcoholic or soft drink. So Les came with me. He's a shareholder. So is John. And without Les, there will be no Smashed. Then Alex Kennedy on the creative side. And also involved was Paul Alexander from the Fun Agency. So a number of people have been involved. And I've tried to surround myself with people that I believe could help me and help the rest of the team deliver. More laterally, Steve Ferris from the international sales side. He's helped me get into America and to Canada. And we're already in the UAE Spinneys, Dubai. And Paul Newman, ex-Living Ventures, is helping me in the UK now selling. So surrounding myself with the right people. It's taken 3 years to pull together. We have a platform now. So hopefully I've summarized where I am now with a brand called Smashed under the company Drynks Unlimited, all in the Northwest with its own manufacturing supply chain. Les helped me create the first top-down beer, lager and cider brand in the world. I don't want to bore everybody who's listening now. If there is anybody listening, they might fall asleep. But it starts life as real beer, real cider, real lager at circa 5.2%. Then we take the alcohol out using a cool vacuum distill. And we end up with a 0.05 or alcohol-free product. We have 5 liquids and they all go through the same process. They start life as real beer, a unique recipe we created, real cider, real lager. and then we take the alcohol out as gently as we can through a vacuum. That was a lot of investment, but that was the point of time where I had to put my money where my mouth was, in terms of, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. Why bother? Do something that's real, genuine, and different. So the brand Smash was developed with some great product protocol process that's in place at Robinson's Brewery. And then on the marketing side, the genius of Les helped me understand how to avoid the legislation controls that are out there. We've done our first TV campaign, which is fantastic, with the support of ITV and Barclays, in terms of, it's called Get Smashed Anytime.
Love it.
But it's made with real beer, real lager, real cider. So Clearcast, the authorities, who are our policemen, not the Portman Group, because we're less than 0.05, it's Clearcast and trading standards, said you can't do that. And then we explained to them why we started it 3 or 4 years ago, which is all about breaking down these barriers. Alcohol cannot be marketed in a beneficial way. You can't say drinking alcohol can do this, drinking alcohol can do that. You can't do that because of the poor, and quite rightly so. But Smash doesn't operate in that sphere. It operates under Clearcast, and we've got Get Smashed Anytime, which is an oxymoron in itself, but it's made with real beer. So we've got a line that says Get Smashed Anytime. We've got 4 occasions where people are drinking the product. That's not allowed in an advert. And then we have the strap line, which is real beer, real taste, real alcohol free. And that was everything that Les and I spent days on, working with the Southend Inland Tax Revenue Company about how to formulate the very essence of the product. Right. And it was 4 years of hard work to where we've got to. But now comes the real hard work, because now it's about convincing consumers that whilst we've been bothering, getting up in the morning and creating these products for 4 years, and trademarks and packaging and stories, that they actually want it. So this is the next stage, if you like.
Well, thank you so much for explaining kind of your journey so far. So there's a couple of themes that I just took a mental note of, and I'm sure Harry did as well. So the Pepsi Max and the Caffreys early on, these were kind of very fresh products. And I know you'd mentioned earlier that you weren't the traditional marketeer. You were very comfortable with new exciting ideas and products. And of course, Caffrey's, I remember that product years ago, and Pepsi Max, they were kind of really big for that day. Also, you talked about luck quite a lot. I wanted to ask you, whether you believe in luck, because you mentioned that about 4 or 5 times. And then I'd be very interested to know if you could pin down one key piece of advice that John Hailwood gave you that was pivotal, and also Mark Hunter. If we could distill, I know there's 2 mentors you had there. So, and I think the other piece is, you would talk about surrounding yourself with people that have the skills that you don't. Well, I think it's really the attitude, just from listening to you, it's really the attitude you have for these team members, for other human beings. If you're kind of focused on helping them grow, rather than what's in it for you. You mentioned that because there's I guess in my view, there's almost like two ways you can manage a partnership or a relationship. It's either transactional, where it's what's in it for me, and okay, that works, but it's kind of short term. But then if you really invest in people and celebrate those people, then you're going to actually create something much bigger than yourself. So I just wanted to kind of voice some of those observations. Harry, did you have anything before Richard can kind of answer those?
I mean, there's a huge amount of points. I don't want to bombard Richard with loads of points just yet. I mean, there's some great things that I noticed. And actually, funny enough, we've just signed up with Howard International for one of our suppliers. So that's brilliant. And you mentioned all those brands, JJ Whitley and Whitney Neal, and all those ones that we're considering looking at. But I love a couple of points, like form of defense around your weaknesses. And that's brilliant. You can leverage, like, if your specialty area is marketing, then, like you say, have the best salespeople around you and let them do the sales. And like with us, we've got a guy that just does all the cocktail development because he's done that for 12 to 15 years, similar to your chap that's done all of the developments with the liquid side. But So you've got a lot of questions there from James. So I'd say kick off with those, and then I've got loads that I'd love to sort of explore a bit further down with you in a sec.
So, first, Caffrey's, it was all about mouthfeel. Mouthfeel was key. Because it wasn't, if you remember way back, if you can remember, lots of alcohol products were flat. Mouthfeel, context to what you're drinking, mouthfeel with the head, really, really, really important. And this idea that Guinness had a monopoly on that, but that people either loved Guinness or didn't. And Caffrey's came along and had this crossover between an ale and a Caffrey's, and a Guinness. And it had with it not just the product protocol and his DNA of being great mouthfeel, great feel, but Irishness. And it's come from somewhere. It had its own DNA and brand ethics that was separate from Guinness. That's why it stood up as a point of difference.
Okay, interesting.
In terms of Pepsi Max, I was lucky, very, very lucky. But it was flipping obvious, really, that when out in New York, seeing the black community, they loved the blue can, but they wanted something for them. And they didn't want to shout about it being low in calories. You don't talk about it as a bloke. I want it low in calories. Just give me something that's low in calories and tastes like the full fat. And that's what Pepsi Max does. Full fat, and it's actually better for you. It doesn't have all the sugar in. And then it was all about the marketing then. Just a point of difference. It was the blue can, not the red can. And without getting into the politics of America of red versus blue, it's very, very straightforward why it worked, where it worked in the early 90s. My piece for adding in was stealing with glee the Pepsi Max launch. So lucky, there was a piece of luck. But my idea was about upsizing, which was the way at that time retailers served soft drinks. Because I like alcohol. I won't share my brands with you. It won't do the brand value very good if I did. But I like soft drinks too. And the way it was served, it was seen as second-class product. It wasn't carbonated properly. It was sometimes not cold. It was sometimes on draft over-sugared because the very manual nature of the carbonation, sugar added when it was draft. So it wasn't just Pepsi Max, the brand. I bought in with support of Britvic at that time, and the structure of Britvic was the Britvic 2000 dispense unit, the first automated dispense unit. I was involved with that and spent 2 weekends responding to TGIs, where the managing director wrote to me and said, "You're the national account manager and marketing guy for this brand with me, and I'm out of stock. My product's not working. I've lost £3,500 in a week because you can't sell your draft." And it became very clear it was an obvious opportunity, the problem of consistent, high-quality draft soft drinks. Combine that with different size servings and a great brand in Pepsi Max. I was lucky. I just got 3 or 4 pieces of ammunition, put them all together, and that's what we ended up with the Britvic dispense unit, which was head of Coke at the time. It was head of Coke at the time, with a 24/7 dispense service, which meant retailers were never without. So I think you asked about Pepsi and Caffrey's. They were fun times, as well as clearly the time of when Rangers and Celtic were at each other's throats in the football, really were. And the derbies were the real derbies, as good as Liverpool, Everton, Man United, Man City. So 7-Up, I was involved with 7-Up sponsoring Celtic, the Green, and Pepsi sponsoring Rangers. So I was often going to games involved with the football games of Rangers and Celtic in Scotland. In terms of what did I learn most from Mark Hunter? Yeah. Ronseal does what it says on the tin. Don't overcomplicate it. Do your thinking. Internalize your thinking. But don't share all your thinking with lots of words and clever essays. Kernelize all your deep thinking into 1 or 2 lines. So I remember having a breakfast meeting at 8 o'clock, and we used to have these sessions early on in the morning. And it was almost like, so what's the brand proposition? What's the brand essence of Reef? Reef was the one that we brought out after Hoocher, Molson Coors. What does it stand for? What do you want it to stand for? If you're briefing an agency, briefing a retailer, briefing a salesman, what does it stand for? Why bother? And it's that simple. Mark used to make marketing simple when communicating it to other people. He said it's actually a simple thing.
That's hard, though, isn't it? Simple is hard.
Making it simple is hard, but you do the internalized debate yourself, and you do your SWOT analysis and all your analysis about the competitor. Where's the market gap? Why is there a market gap? Is there a gap? How big is the gap? How long is it going to last? How do you feel the gap? All those things, and then come back with your brand DNA. Simple and stupid is effective.
Yeah.
And Ron Seal was that piece in terms of just what it said on the tin.
Yeah. So do you think there's a correlation between simple and luck? Because I'm still curious to know why do you fundamentally believe in luck? Is there a correlation between simple and keeping it simple and luck?
I think the harder you work, the luckier you get. I absolutely believe in that phrase, because if you set yourself 8 or 9 priorities rather than 1 or 2, and you get 7, it's better than setting yourself 1 and getting 1, because you've achieved 6 other things. And as long as you realise why you haven't got all the priorities achieved, and you have a safety net to resolve the other 2 or 3 unresolved pieces, and there's no collateral to the team around you, I think you create your own luck. But I do think the harder you work, the luckier you get. I do believe in that. And so Mark Hunter was about make things simple, but do your internalized planning yourself. But then have that, and then have a plan. What's the one line for the brand proposition? What's the DNA of it? And that leads on to John Hailwood, which was all about the phrase, why bother? So when I joined Hailwood, it was all about, Richard, you know a lot about advertising, TV advertising. Clearly I didn't, because I had experts around me who did it. They did the storyboards. I just had to make sure that it was on track with what the advertising was supposed to be. The agencies were the clever people. So I joined Hailwood as a relatively small company, and they thought I was this big advertising guru. What John really wanted was, yes, do that, but you're worth more to me by create wealth. Create wealth for me. Marketing needs to create wealth, not spend my money. Invest, but know what your return is. Invest, but know what your return is. So John was about, you can have my money, my personal money, but make sure it's invested wisely and know you've got controls on it at every stage. So why bother came into play with Crabbage Ginger Beer. So my first piece of NPD. So he said, no more advertising now. That's it now for 12 months. And we didn't advertise any brand. He wanted NPD. He wanted to grow the business, not organically, but by new products. And I stole this idea from the shop floor. Had a 3 o'clock in the morning research with some production people in Hailwood in Liverpool. And we have this idea for retro drinks, great tasting, genuine retro drinks. And out of that session came ginger beer, dandelion and burdock, cloudy lemonade. And it happened in a time with John in his kitchen one Sunday morning. We're thinking about the brand and what ginger beer could be. We all like the idea of it. We landed on Crabbage Ginger Beer. Why? Because when you make Crabbage Ginger wine, you actually crush the ginger. The ginger is crushed. The ginger is from India. Crabbage is 1804. It's got its brand own ethics and story from 200 years ago. It's got the process of how you do it. We just change the end piece from being a liqueur into a carbonated 5% drink. So
you followed the same process with the Smash brand. I mean, it's you really highlighted the importance to kind of really understand the brand and then the product and then what the consumer wants. Keep it simple, and why bother? Why are you bothering with it? Why are you? And then knowing, yeah.
So feature the benefits, right? Everything to me, because I'm really a salesman at heart. People say that I'm more a salesman than a marketeer. I'm probably I've hidden away because I'm not a really good salesman. So I've gone in the back office to be a marketeer because there's better salesmen around than me. And that's probably very, very true. If you speak to people from my past, I couldn't sell very well. But I knew what they wanted, which was features and benefits. So Crabby's had 3 or 4. Smash has got more features and benefits than any brand I've been involved with, because it's almost like a culmination of the things I've learned from and how I've been blessed with the people around me and my mentors and tutors. What do you drink when you can't drink? That was actually a Diageo trademark. So that was my first disappointment. John said, $2 million, you can have that. You can buy it off Diageo. They've already got that in America. So we came up with a line in a coffee bar in the outskirts of near Saddleworth, actually on a wet Friday afternoon. And Rethinking Drinking is our trademark. So Rethinking Drinking became our trademark, which came out of what do you drink when you can't drink? And I'm sure there's a long-term benefit in having that trademark. So I do think there are links between socializing, having fun, health, and the more serious matters of mental health as well as physical health. And Rethinking Drinking has a role to play there without solving the problem. It's part of that communication, I believe, in the future. So Rethinking Drinking became under Drynks Unlimited, and the brand Smash became from the Ron Seal phrase, does what it says on the tin. And I wanted to create something that was memorable. I don't have the money of the Heineken, the Guinness, Gordon's Gin Zero. The name needs to be memorable without the investment. And then playing on the excellent conversation we had with the Inland Revenue Southend office with Les, we wanted it to relate to the product. So the idea that we'd have a name that you couldn't have if you were with the Portman Group, that was a benefit. So Smashed as a brand could never be launched by any alcohol brand or anybody that's got a brand over 0.05. So that was 3 years, and that was 3 years ago. And we've been lucky that we've survived so far to be able to stay in the game, which is there'll be 7 or 8 brands left in the category. We've got to stay in the game and give a point of difference. We believe our points of difference are top down, real beer, real cider, real lager, independent is important. The fact that we don't have any alcohol brands is also important. The fact we have a range is also important.
Yep.
The fact we have personality because it's not in the Portman Group. It's tying all those things together. You think about the features and benefits there. It's all about making it, giving a reason why the retailer wouldn't take it, wouldn't give it a try, why the salesman wouldn't want to get off the backside, get out of the car, get in with their box of tricks and go and sell it. Give them a reason why they can't.
It's a really clever, it's a wonderful strategy. It's very holistic because even the legislation and knowing what what the alcohol brands can and can't do, having something a really powerful brand, a brand that people can relate to, having a reason like this why bother thing. Well, what do you drink if you can't drink, or and then you've got the amazing people that you've surrounded yourself with, but that only really comes from in my opinion, transformational leadership. I think you come across as okay. No, but it's just your attitude. It's a mindset towards people, though. It's that attitude, and I think that really has, clearly, the folks that you've surrounded yourself with, want to come along for the ride and work hard. But I think you've covered all the bases, and I guess being in the trenches, you learned your trade, and the fact that you've kind of stuck with one vertical or what drinks you said is your thing, and you found a clever way to keep it simple, but it's really not simple. It's very hard to do what you've done.
I'd like to take a moment to introduce you to our amazing sponsor, Flexi. These days, we have multiple subscriptions from streaming services to gift boxes and much more. Discover Flexi's unique subscription marketplace, sourced from independent British brands, from organic beauty products, cocktail kits, and responsibly sourced coffee to plant-based meals, gift boxes, and much more. Whatever your passion, Look forward to a regular box of joy delivered straight to your door. All easy to pause, cancel or resume in a tap or two from one single dashboard. So give Flexi a try. It's free to download from the App Store or head over to www.flexyapp.uk. That's FLEXYAPP.uk. Now back to our guest.
Harry, you had some questions, didn't you, for Richard?
Yeah. I mean, I think what is interesting is that one thing with the non-alcohol market is it's, as you know, it's so difficult to sort of replicate that experience of alcohol. And I think it's brilliant how you guys have taken the end product of alcohol and basically just reverse engineered it to create yours. And I think one thing is sort of, and I think, like you say, with having, who are those going to be 7 that are going to be the stronger ones at the end, with you've got the combination of the brilliant brand identity, that the flavor, you've got, like you said, the mouthfeel, all of those different things. Because something that most people currently associate with non-alcoholic is a Pepsi or a Coke or a juice or maybe a mocktail that's a couple of fruit juices with a bit of grenadine in the bottom to sort of, and that's all they have. And they want to have an experience that makes them feel like they're joining in. It looks like a beer. It's got an amazing brand and name and tastes pretty much like a beer, but you're not having that effect, which also is the mental health effect, which I think is something that is a real big focus with this no and low alcohol trend. So I guess first quick question is sort of in terms of the no and low alcohol market, where's it going? What's the opportunity there? And then really, I'd love to know sort of how did you create that first MVP bottle of beer to sort of get to now having the big bottling line? Because for some of the younger listeners, they may have an idea but they don't know how to create that first small product to then get maybe a little bit of funding or investor savings and then take it to sort of a scalable level where it's shop ready for sort of Waitrose, Sainsbury's, that sort of thing. So there's a couple of questions there I'd love to sort of hear your thoughts on.
So the NOLO market is really interesting from a point of view of, I think it's had lots of false starts, and whether that's societal hurdles, economic hurdles. I believe the consumer is ready now. He's ready to listen to the options out there. They're ready to listen. I think the pandemic has helped or will help the NOLO market. People will want to have fun because they've missed out on fun for 2 years, but they'll also have this balance of having a watchful eye on their health. So I think the pandemic, there's 2 parts to play there. I've just Radio 4 this morning was saying after every health pandemic, there's been a massive social phenomena. Swinging 60s, after the war, etc. So, and the Roaring 20s. There's almost like people want to break out of it, and there'll be a social, lots of fun this summer, this year. People want to break out, but I do think there'll be a mind and watchful eye to the health part. Consumers are ready for change, and at the same time they're being ready for change, there are brands out there supported. I have no envy whatsoever that Guinness 0.0 and Heineken 0.0, which are both excellent products. They're both excellent products. And that might surprise people hear me say this, that they're great pillar brands to have to form the structure of the category. Equally, Gordon's Gin Zero is an excellent product. It helps position. It's a pillar brand, a beacon. And I'm delighted they're there because the consumers will be attracted, I hope, by Smashed and by Lucky Saint and by Big Drop. But it's those 3 big pillar brands that form the structure. So the consumer's ready, the market is ready, and now it's about the brand owners being courageous, including ourselves, continuing to develop, continuing to listen, continuing to communicate, and grow the category, grow the number of occasions. It's not just based on supermarket shelves and on pubs' fridges. The NOLO market is more than that. And our TV advert, I hope, demonstrates that. I think airlines, hotels, coffee bars, leisure centres are where it's going to be at, as well as the supermarket, at home, and the pubs. So the NOLO market will grow and it will be sustainable this time because the consumer's ready. They will try. They want to believe, and the brand owners are ready now to deliver what the consumers are looking for.
I think your comment about the consumers being ready. So I've been teetotal for 9 years this February, so I'm kind of your perfect customer. And actually, selfishly, that's why I wanted Smash Drinks on the Flexi platform, because I love your product.
Oh, right, okay.
And I've been drinking it for several months. And I don't know whether I mentioned it to you yesterday, but I didn't actually realize that it was this product I really liked, but I couldn't remember what it was called. And then chatting to Paul Newman, and then getting you listed on Flexi, we realized that actually it was a product that I really loved. So what I can say for those consumers out there or listeners that might be on the fence, I can tell you that having not drunk for 9 years, improved sleep. I was never a really heavy drinker, but I drank every week, probably 3 or 4 times a week. I'd have a drink or two, and I get more done. So I think there's lots of benefits. And I think consumers are becoming a bit more mindful about where they spend their money. As you'd mentioned, the pandemic, people are a bit more health conscious. I think lockdown, a lot of folks have actually hit the gym a bit more, maybe had a bit more exercise, got their 10,000 steps in. And what's the next step? And actually, you don't have to not drink. You don't have to be that crazy. But by introducing some non-alcoholic options or drinking less alcohol is only giving me a good thing. But I think the world is changing a bit. And I think your comment about brands like yourselves being courageous, and then knowing that these pillar brands are actually in play. So you've got that foundation. And then you also made a comment about that selection. So I know Smash Drinks have a lovely range of cider, and you've got the non-alcoholic beer and the citrus product as well. So actually you do have a choice. And I've tested it. So I have a friend of mine actually it's a reforming alcoholic. In fact, he's an ex-alcoholic. But he said that your cider is literally as good as the real thing. I haven't got his voicemail on me, but I sent it to Paul.
It's brilliant.
So yeah, sorry, I'll find out his latest WhatsApp to to me.
It's interesting. We did I'll mention Club Soda in a minute, because Laura Willoughby's done some great work for the last 5 years, and it's her time now. But interesting about the cider is we sampled at Spitalfields in Manchester, fantastic location, and people. If there were half a dozen, there were a dozen people out of the 350 people we sampled on the one day. That's a lot for a January. Yeah. 350 people sampled. Proper sampling. And they all took a can away because they could do, because it's 0.05, etc., etc.
Yeah, lovely. Yeah.
So this is going to be apple juice, isn't it? There's going to be on our social feed a guy. I wish I could remember his name now. Had his shorts on. He was a walker. He'd been to get his new walking boots. And he went, "It's just apple juice, isn't it?" I said, "Will you come and try it? And if you like it, will you do a piece to camera?" And he went, "Yeah, if I like it. I don't think I will." And he tried it. He went, "That's like the real thing." I said, "Because it is the real thing. It is cider. There's no added sugar in there." And he did a piece to camera. And he'll be doing a piece on our social feed, because cider, it is real cider. It is real lager. And you can't replicate the DNA and mouthfeel of real alcohol by doing bottom up. You can't do it. It's not technically possible. So in terms of the category, I think it's the right time now. I really do. Your other question from 5 minutes ago, can you remind me what that was? Sorry.
Yeah, of course. That's no problem at all. I think firstly, just on that quickly, the pillar brand, I think that's an amazing point there, because again, Sipsmith have now got their Zero, and you've got all these other brands that are creating that market space for you, because people will say, "Oh, I've tried that. Oh, what's that?" And actually will realize that. And the top down model is brilliant. And also it's a bit like sort of the electric world. Like now people are thinking we need to sort of head to that electric world, because it's going to happen for one, but also it's thinking about the benefits from the environment, and people will head towards that. And if people think health benefits and a weekday, instead of going for the gin or instead of going for the normal beer, you can have the experience without having that headache in the morning or that negative health effects. I think that's a brilliant. So back to the question, it was basically, how did you get to that first MVP product? So for those listeners out there that maybe want to develop their first little product, but they don't know how did you get from there? And then a quick sort of, how did you then get to sort of scaling up to sort of then the bigger levels where you're looking at Sainsbury's and the bottom line, all those sort of bits and bobs?
So without doing a piece on how to be an entrepreneur, I would never do that. But I might say you're better placed if you've lived it yourself. If you've lived it as a consumer, then great. If you've been one of the team and had your sleeves and rolled them up and actually been part of the team to do it. That helps too. Do you know your category rather than you like the category? Do you really know it? Do you know the economic, as well as the consumer piece, the economic and the commercial sides of the piece? Where might the competitors be? Why is it not done before? You have to delve into those, as well as, I'd like to be an entrepreneur. I'd like to be an entrepreneur in this category. Why? Why do you want to be an entrepreneur in that category? What are you going to bring that's different? And do you know the decision tree, should it not work out the first time? Don't go blind in and go, oh, I'd like to go. I like the idea of doing it. That's not the idea of being an entrepreneur for me. It's a little bit more formative than that, I think. That doesn't mean you're not creative. It doesn't mean you don't take risks, but you know what the next stage is. So for us, Les and I, particularly Les and I, it was 3 years. Some nights we slept on beanbags in brewers where we tried things out. So we tried different breweries, different techniques. It didn't give us what we wanted. We don't need to name the name of the brewers. It wasn't what we were looking for. And then Les stumbled across a company called Alpha Laval. You can make gravy from the machine. And Alpha Laval had a cool vacuum distill. So they do lots of things with this cool vacuum distill. Because Les knew the very rudiments of how you do things, he thought was an opportunity. Mm. So it's more than just the excitement of being an entrepreneur. Have people around you that do the accounts, know the numbers, bore you, but necessarily be bored. Have someone who's a chemist on the product that knows the DNA and the makeup of what you can and cannot do. Not just I've got this idea for doing this. It's what's the meat behind the bones? What's the real thinking about the business? Because if you are successful, crikey, it better be profitable. It better be doable. It better be scalable. It better be a point of difference for a long time. Otherwise, you'll get caught up and swallowed up by a big company.
Otherwise, why bother?
Why bother? So just a number of things here, which is one morning in an engineering office, and everyone's talking baloney to me in Widnes and all places before the Widnes Bridge was built. It took me half an hour to find the office, and I was in the right postcode. It was back of an industrial estate. Alan Rogerson's team got from ABM, engineers, and there's this big drawing on the table. What are we going to do? How are we going to make this product? And suddenly Alan said, that Alpha Laval have got one in Copenhagen, and you can rent it, but you need to put £25,000 down before Heineken get it. Half an hour later, we did it. And
fantastic.
And Heineken, and Les says, that's probably the only decision and the best decision I've made, which was to get the rental unit. So find ways of doing what you need to do, the lowest possible cost. And the reason for getting the rental unit was it's a small unit. We still needed to fit it in somewhere, but we made a decision to get it before Heineken did. If Heineken wanted it, there was a reason for it. Mm-hmm. And we got the rental unit. And that is a true story. We made the decision, and foolish, courageous, luck. That's how it happened. So then it was a case of going back to how do we going to make this work? Les knew it would work because he'd done some in-lab desk work, just in terms of some products, and lots of research. So 3 years researching the method and how it would taste, how it might taste, all the protocols, all the dynamics of 0.05, sugar levels, PG levels, color levels. There's lots of things you need to understand about how to get your entrepreneurial smash product. Mm. Les was that person. With a little bit of luck from myself added into the equation. So we launched it in 2018 on a trial basis, and we had it on a month-by-month basis. We paid a lot for the kit that was in Robinson's Brewery, and that was a strategic decision because we could have found somebody, a bigger player like Heineken or Molson Coors, to have the machine. But that would have meant they could have taken it over. They could have done it themselves. Robinsons are a fantastic traditional brewer, and now a traditional brewer and a fabulous retailer. They've got some great pubs. Their focus, close first focus, is their retail, but they've still got classical traditional brewing operation. of cask and tank and keg beers and lagers. And it's for that reason they had no appetite to go into NOLO, but they had the protocol, the BRCC, the SALSA, all the things you need to be to sell it abroad or sell it in supermarkets. So that's why it's thinking about the relationships in the supply chain. So we had a test product at relatively low cost, but then we had to give it back. we delayed, and Ian Forrester, the Alpha Laval guy, was brilliant. He knew we were delaying it as much as we can, the rental unit. We had to buy our own. It was twice the size. And in the end, we bought it through investment, through some good shareholders and some visionary people who supported us buying the big machine. So in terms of answering your question is, have the ability to test it, try it in a very small scale, know that you can scale up at different levels, think about the options if it doesn't work and what your exit strategy is at each stage, and keep giving samples to consumers. Is it going to work? Why is it going to work? We tested our design 3 or 4 times. We're just about to change the design now from doing 12 months of research. It's going to be seen in America first. In America, we're doing the first mixed 4-pack in the world. It's got a beer, lager, and cider in a 4-pack.
Nice.
Because we bought a 4-pack cardboard packing line. And again, that might play out into the UK if the retailers see fit for that and they see an opportunity with consumers. So it's about having a long-term plan. I think we had that with Les's help in terms of 3 years of hard work and investment, finding the product that was going to make a difference. Understand how that links into marketing, understands how that links into the supply chain. And then to cap it all off, I talked about exit strategy and defense, if you like. The cost of entry is not easy. So I've been very fortunate having people around me who are great skills but financial backing at a small level, but enough that we can start the process, which is where we're at now. Still small scale, but we can start it to the point that the cost of entry is still sizable, and we need a large company to come in, and it would take them 18 months to replicate what we do if they came and saw the site. It would take them that time to get the machine, understand how to make the liquids. So that's our defense, if you like, 18 months protection. So now we have to use that time to do what's next? What's next? What's next? Always thinking ahead so that the people who might copy what we do are still behind us.
So you talked about your wonderfully supportive shareholders. I noted, just from following your journey, you took some investment from Dragon's Den in 2018, I think. How was your experience did you have your initial shareholders before that time? Can you talk a little bit about your experience with Dragon's Den, some of the motivations behind that, and then did that help you attract some bigger investment later on in 2020?
Wow. Okay. So we got a listing in Selfridges, small scale, Manchester store only. I pestered the Manchester buyer, a fantastic guy. He had the vision. He took us on a little NOLO brand called Smashed in the Selfridges, Manchester. And I was doing the sampling myself on a Saturday afternoon. And who rocked up but the PA to the program editor? And I was busy tidying up, clean, and this car just landed right in front of me and said, "Ever thought about being on Dragon's Den?" And I said, "Why would I want to do that?" Because you should be on it. I love your products. And I said, is it a long process? Oh, it takes about 6 months, but I think you could do that in 3. But it is hard work. That's how it started. I was sampling in Selfridges, and the PA to the program thrust her card in front of me, and then started that process. It was tough, really tough. It's like setting up a company in itself and having lots of auditors. They do a lot of due diligence. We were 3.5 hours screening live. We got there at 6. We were at 6 o'clock there, and we were on at 4 o'clock. We came out at 7:30. I went and had a coffee at the Tower Hotel because I was absolutely shattered. I didn't know whether it's one of those elation things about, wow. Sarah was the person that put her hand in her pocket. We didn't go with Sarah in the end, and Sarah didn't go with us in the end, because, as Peter said, Peter really liked the idea, what we were doing. I think he believed in us, but he knew it was a £2 million investment, not a £135,000 investment. Mm-hmm. It was a big investment job and a real long term. And some of the dragons got appetites for it, and some didn't. There's a great brand on called Impossible with Mark Wong. He was on last week, and he was raved about in terms of his approach, his persona. They didn't invest in him because it was too much of a risk. Everyone thinks that it's the big brands that will come through. I'm going to make sure it's not just the big brands that come through. I'm going to piggyback them, learn from them, and be ahead of them in their thinking. So Heineken can have their lager, Guinness can have their stout. I'll have a range and more. So the Dragon's Den was a great experience of 3.5 hours being filmed down into 14 minutes. I was absolutely exhausted. I learned a lot from it because the opening 30 seconds started as 3 pages, and it needed, which was 3.5 minutes, you have to go down to 30 seconds. That's how hard it was. When the doors slide open, I said to myself, what the am I doing here? Because the doors don't open smoothly. It's almost like the doors open at a slow pace to give you time to change your mind and turn around. But it was a great experience being questioned by experienced, successful business people. And we didn't work with Sarah, and Sarah didn't work with us, but it was all amicable. It was all about aspiration and objectives of both parties. In terms of, so I had a shareholder before who's been an angel, who's been in at the start, who's been fantastic, believes in me as a person. I knew him at Halewood, he's a customer at Halewood. So I've been very lucky in terms of the opportunity to get to this stage. We've achieved nothing yet. Nothing.
It's the beginning.
It's at the start, and now comes the hard bit. Consumers matter. Consumers decide. With all the protocols there, the trademarks there, the products there, supply chain is there. I want the challenge now that I need another machine. To get to that point, consumers have to love us every day, every week, again and again and again. And that's what we need to do. This is the hard work now.
See if this works. So I've got a consumer. I'm going to play his voicemail to me, and we can always take it out if it doesn't work out. But let me just play this. See if it works. Hang on a second. This is from Phil. This is a customer that we introduced to Drynks through Flexi, and we like to get feedback from the products that we list just to make sure that the products are what they say on the tin. So hopefully I got the right section. Hang on a second.
I think it's really good. Coming from a ex-professional drinker, it actually does taste like the real thing. Not that I'm trying to simulate the real thing, but a lot of these alcohol-free things just actually have a horrible tang to them, as you know. And the cider ones have traditionally just tasted of appetizer. So there's nothing wrong with appetizer, but it's not really. It's quite sweet. So that cider one's bloody brilliant, mate. I would be fooled by that. Okay, cheers.
So with that in mind, we should have, if you want to buy a case, this is the price. That's fine by me. We should do that.
Yeah, fantastic.
That's great feedback.
Yeah. It's good, isn't it? I mean, it's like you said, the customer chooses at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. But you know what? It'll cost you £2 for an alcohol version, so why not just
at least?
Yeah.
And if you start with the real thing, then have to take care of the real thing in taking the alcohol out.
That's it. And you pay £1 for the juice or the appetizer, but the fact you're creating a real experience that tastes like the product, people. You got to expect to pay a little bit more for the full experience. Just sort of one final question from me for our listeners out there who generally are sort of aspiring entrepreneurs. What is one final piece of advice that you would sort of leave them following your journey?
Wow,
big question to finish.
Stay true to yourself. Stay true to yourself. If you believe in it, believe in it. But know why you believe in it. Be really clear why you believe in it. Not that it's nice to do. Believe in it and be true to yourself, and that helps if you've got a backstory.
Yeah.
If you've got a relatable, personal backstory, then great.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Brilliant. No, that's awesome. Well, Richard, thank you so much for joining us on Rocket Pod today. James, I'm sure you agree that's been an awesome conversation. And for all of our listeners out there, definitely go check out Smashed. We'll make sure to put some links in the description so you can go check out their products. But Richard, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been an absolute pleasure.
I've really enjoyed your tough questioning. I wouldn't like to go. It's easier than Newsnight, I'm sure.
And where can
Amazing.
people find you, Richard? Where can they find Smash Drinks and yourself?
Sure. So you can find me in a box. But in terms of the Smashed brand can be found on Drink Social, online. Everything's available nationally, and then booths and Sainsbury's is available, and also a co-op in the Midlands. We've just got into there, so slowly but surely we're extending our distribution, and obviously we're working with Flexi, which is fabulous. It's a great place to be.
Well, it's fantastic to have you on board. Well, thank you, Richard. Really appreciate your time.
All the best.
Right. Thank you for listening to today's episode of Rocket Pod. Richard Clark shared a lot of wisdom with us, a couple of key takeaways that I made a note of. Really, coming to the table with a backstory will help frame things. Surround yourself with people that have skills that you don't. So almost like recognize your blind spots. And also the attitude towards your team members is really, really important if you're going to attract that loyalty and really achieve things which are much bigger than yourself. Keep things really simple. That's really key. And also have a good look in the mirror and figure out what the authentic motivations are that drive the vision, that drive the business. Because, it's going to be a long journey, and this will help. If you have the right foundation, that will help you get through the tough times. Also seek mentors. So mentors played a really key part in Richard's success. And again, a really great reminder that, getting advice from the right people at the right time is really, really key. We'd love it when you get a moment. If you could leave a review on Apple Podcast and Spotify as well. I think you could actually leave a star rating there as well. Really helps us get exposure and keeps the stories and the interviews more relevant to what our listeners, the listeners, really want. Big shout out and thank you to our sponsor Flexi, the single destination for unique subscriptions such as Smash Drinks. You can actually pick up ciders and non-alcoholic beers on the Flexi web and app. Yeah, so do your little bit to look after these emerging brands that really need your support. Have an amazing week, everyone, and we'll see you next time. Take care.